Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times on the north end of Purdue's campus this weekend. Boilermaker basketball took down Alabama in a memorable non-conference affair, while on the other side, it was more of the same for Purdue football as Penn State steamrolls Purdue, giving Purdue its 9th straight loss. We'll talk about both of them with a heavy focus on basketball here today. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. You can always send in questions for the show there or over email, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Thank you to those of you who reach out with questions. It makes the show a lot more fun for me and for all of you as well. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. Lots to talk about here throughout the next, 6 months or so. Be sure to follow along so you can join every episode. Let's start with basketball here, the highlight. Purdue 87, Alabama 78. More than anything, give Alabama credit for playing this game. Give Purdue credit for playing this game. College basketball needs more games like this. It's more fun for everyone involved, for the fans, for people who have to talk and write about it, for the teams. I mean, this is good stuff. This is really good stuff. Home court atmospheres in the non-conference have been extinct for a while now, but when you have series like this, when you have like Carolina played at Kansas a couple weeks ago, like that stuff is really good for the sport. And college basketball needs more of this. Every team has complete control of its non-conference schedule, and you can load up on bye games, on overmatched mid-majors to get off to a good start and, enter conference play with a nice record and have your fans excited. But, Matt Painter and Nate Oates here were clearly both okay with taking a loss here. Both sides went into this knowing very well they could lose. And Purdue's going to go to Tuscaloosa next year, wide open to that too. And Purdue has another one coming this week with Marquette, same deal with Shaka Smart. I can't remember the last time Purdue had this level of a home and home. It had one with Texas, 2018 and 2019. Texas won both of those. But, you don't see a lot of it. Some of the more memorable atmospheres. Virginia after the Elite Eight was a Big Ten ACC game. So was that Duke game back 2008, I think. Villanova in 2016 was a Gavitt game. Those games are great, but they're not independently scheduled. This was just these two coaches being willing to take on a really big challenge early on in the year, and that's awesome. And it was a truly elite atmosphere in Mackey Arena. Purdue hasn't had that many gigantic games in Mackey Arena in recent years, in part because of how good Purdue has been. Purdue's had a lot of games in Mackey Arena in the last few years where, sure, on paper it's a big game, but Purdue's a double-digit favorite in these, and Purdue, hasn't really lost at home a whole lot. This was peak Mackey Arena. This was awesome. The place was just on cloud nine. It was fired up. After the C.J. Cox 3-point barrage, it was as loud as it gets. The place was just on fire. And that, again, college basketball needs more of that early on in the season. Just incredible. In terms of the game itself, Purdue wins 87-78. Purdue leads for the majority of the game. Alabama led for about 5 minutes. I think Purdue led for about 30. What Purdue has in its big three of Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn is as good as you get in the nation. 50 of Purdue's 63 shot attempts came from those three. And while that's a high number, that's about right. You're probably not going to have that every game, but you are going to see those guys get the bulk of the opportunities for Purdue because, as Matt Painter always says, you run stuff for your best players. And Purdue's best players were really good in this game. Braden Smith did not have his best shooting day. He goes 6 for 18 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. But He knocks down his free throws. He hits some of those tough, 2-point mid-range shots that he's so good at. He gets to the basket and beats some of Alabama's big guys to the rim. It's winning play after winning play. If you're into the gambling, the points, rebound, assist totals out there. 17 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists. The guy is a stat sheet stuffer. Not to be too much of a Dick Vitale here, but he is unbelievable. Purdue has not had a point guard like him ever. He might be the best point guard in the nation. He might be the best player in the nation. It is not hyperbole to say that he is in the conversation for that. I remember when folks spent all summer panicking about Fletcher Loyer because he didn't score in the national title game. But, what we've seen from him so far is just incredible. He's shooting the lights out of the ball. He's making good decisions with the basketball. He is scoring at multiple levels. The guy is really, really good. 5 for 9, 3 for 5 from 3, 4 for 5 at the line, 17 points. And really, a lot of that came early. I think he had 17 at the first media timeout in the second half, and then Trey Kaufman-Renn kind of took the wheel along with C.J. Cox. But Fletcher Loyer helped Purdue get through a stretch in the first half where it really needed some help. When Trey Kaufman-Renn was in foul trouble and when Braden Smith wasn't getting shots to fall, Fletcher Loyer stepped up and hit some big-time shots. He hits the one to send you to the locker room. He gets a couple of buckets right out of the half. Really good stuff from him. You could focus on what he's not, but what he is a legitimate all-conference caliber player. He is really, really good. And this was kind of Trey Kaufman-Renn's coming out party on a national scale. This was the first, big-time national game that Purdue's played in since he kind of took the reins as your top big guy who's going to get those post touches. He does that thing where you don't know how a lot of his shots go in. You don't know how he's going to get a lot of his shots because he is so right-hand dominant. But it works. And while typically you may say, I want him to be a little bit less centered on his right hand, I agree. But, we're here again, and it's still working. He gets to that right hand, and he's crafty. And he plays a little more below the rim than what you saw from a Zach Edey, from a Matt Harms, from an Isaac Haas, because those guys are the Sears Tower down there. Trey Kaufman-Renn isn't quite that, but he gets to his spots really well. He finishes really well. It's as effective as it gets. And he was tremendous. Cliff Amore had no answers for him. Grant Nelson was completely overpowered by him. He was great. He was terrific. Just down the stretch, he's getting bucket after bucket to salt this thing away. You saw the importance of foul trouble for this team. These three can't be in foul trouble. When Trey Kaufman-Renn got in foul trouble in the first half, you felt like it was a real danger zone point for Purdue, which it turned out to be fine. But you can't afford that too much. But all in all, not many teams have a trio like Purdue does to lead the way. And that's a great place to be. That's a really good place to be. And in this game, you saw Purdue's complementary pieces complement really well. Purdue doesn't get elite scoring from these guys, but it's like we talked about last year with Fletcher Loyer or Lance Jones. There were games where they wouldn't score a ton because Braden Smith and Zach Edey did so much of that. Your 4th, 5th, and 6th guys this year are not going to be consistently scoring night in, night out, but you need guys to step up and fill roles. Camden Heide pulls down 8 rebounds in this game to tie for the team high. He knocks down a big 3 in the second half to help Purdue kind of pull away. That's what you need. That's being complimentary. That is filling a void. Purdue didn't need more points. There weren't more shots to be taken in this game. But there were rebounds to pull down that Purdue needed badly. And when Purdue started to have the tide turn in its favor, when it was going small late in the game with Cam Heide playing the 4, he was big on the glass. He knocks down a 3 when it's there. All you can ask for. Miles Colvin didn't score. Miles Colvin didn't take a shot in this game. In How many minutes did he play? Let's see. I can't get it to come up right now. Miles Colvin plays 20 minutes in this game, and he doesn't take a shot. He pulls down 2 rebounds, but he blocks a couple of shots. He plays some really respectable defense on Mark Sears, a really good player, one of the best in the country, a preseason All-American, the CBS Sports Preseason National Player of the Year. Colvin does a great job, and that's a big sign of progress for him because last year it was offense or nothing. It was scoring or nothing, and that's normal for freshmen who come in having always played that way. But you're seeing him develop off the ball, a phenomenal sign. And you saw him celebrate it. You saw him after the game run over to the paint crew and jump up on the side and, celebrating with the students. And that's a big sign for someone who is not used to not being the guy on offense. That's not what he's used to. He's used to being the guy. But here he is doing a great job off the ball and playing a complimentary role. You see CJ Cox come out of nowhere, drops 3 bombs in a row, hits 3 threes in a row, forces an Alabama timeout, and flips the tide of this game. No pun intended. Just unbelievable. The guy's fearless. He's able to be on the floor in big minutes against a big-time opponent. That's not something you can say a lot for freshmen, but he's doing it on both ends. He's comfortable on defense. He's an unheralded true freshman who is coming out and looking like he was someone who everyone offered, even though he's someone no one offered. Caleb First gives you quality minutes at the 5. Raleigh Burgess hits a big 3. The role players played their roles very well in this game. And that's what's going to be the difference for Purdue. You know what you're going to get from your big 3. There will be off nights for each of them. Sure, that's impossible to avoid. But Purdue got exactly what it needed from these guys. And it was a really, really nice showing for Purdue. Just awesome stuff, really. It's hard to be more pleased than where Purdue should be. I think I tweeted this after the game. This is Purdue continuing to show itself as one of the best offensive programs in the country. Alabama gets a ton of credit that's much deserved for how effective its offense is year in and year out. Purdue's right there with the best nationally at running elite offenses. This is 2 years in a row here where Purdue has outdueled Alabama. 92-86, I think last year it was. 87-78 this year. These are high-scoring affairs where Purdue is outscoring an elite offensive program. You saw the importance of Purdue taking care of the basketball. It did a great job there. Just 3 turnovers. I think that tied a school record. Look, even with some missed shots by Braden Smith, he's not always going to miss. And a great, efficient performance that if you're Purdue, you just have to be thrilled with. This team isn't going to be perfect. This team has its flaws. It has its concerns. Rebounding is going to be something Purdue just has to deal with this year. I think when you look at this, more to come on the 5 spot, but, your best option there might be Trey Kaufman-Renn, which limits your team's rebounding when you go small at the 4. Will Berg remains really, really raw at the center position. Rebounding is not a strength of his yet. He's got to do the little things well. Rebounding one of those, he's got to show some progress there. Raleigh Burgess as well, a true freshman who's still adjusting to things. Rebounding is not a strength. Braden Smith might be your best rebounder right now, and he's 6 feet tall, to be generous. That's a concern for this team, and you saw it with Alabama getting second chance looks. If Alabama made more threes in this game, the result probably looks different. Purdue probably doesn't win. Rebounding is something you're going to have to live with. Rim protection is something you're going to have to live with. Daniel Jacobson would have helped you there, but it still probably would have been a weakness for this team no matter what. Purdue could be better at keeping the ball out of the lane to begin with, but when you are so focused on the offensive end the way Purdue is, your defensive end does sometimes struggle a little bit because of how good your offense is. You can't have your cake and eat it too sometimes. And the elite level defense has not been there for Purdue, necessarily elite level, as Purdue has really become an offensive program. So far, Purdue's been able to really outscore opponents. I don't know if Purdue is going to be able to do that in every single game, but so far so good. And when Purdue's not turning the ball over, I think you have to feel pretty good about Purdue as, where it could be this year. This was a really encouraging win. This is a really big-time win. This is Purdue showing that, while it may not be a top 5 team all year like it was with Ross-Ade the last 2 years, it's not falling off the face of the earth, just like it didn't after Jaden Ivey left, just like it didn't after Carson Edwards left, just like it didn't after the Vince Edwards group left or Caleb Swanigan left. That's not happening. Purdue is continuing to build something really, really strong. And it's got another big-time game up next. It goes to Marquette on Tuesday. Big-time challenge. Again, give these coaches credit. This is big-time stuff. These two teams have played a lot recently, so it maybe kills the novelty a little bit, but these are really good programs. This is a good program to play. Ken Pom has a 2-point Marquette victory right there, at Purdue by 2 on Friday. So another toss-up game here. I think it's a real positive that Purdue did beat Bama. Just from an opportunity standpoint, you have a big win under your belt at this point. You don't plan on losing, but if you do lose, it's not like it's some gigantic missed opportunity since you already got one. You just got to keep stacking good performances. And, this will be a little bit of a test for Purdue's maturity here after it got a huge win at home. Everyone's telling them how great they are right now. I'm recording this at 12:30 on Sunday. 50-some hours from now, Purdue's going to be on the floor against another top 25 opponent on its home floor. You still have Cam Jones, still have David Joplin, guys that Purdue saw last season. Marquette loves to shoot the three, just like Bama. Over half of Marquette's field goal attempts come from deep. You're kind of seeing the same thing to a degree, so it helps that you saw Bama. But this is going to be another test, and that's what you want. That's what Purdue wants. Purdue is really bought into the theory of playing tougher teams early on in the year, so I think you got to be encouraged here, and we'll see what happens. It's almost a house money game, but it's another opportunity where if Purdue wins that, you see Purdue do that thing for the 4th straight November where it stacks these big wins and just skyrockets up the polls. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday. After the break, we will talk about Purdue football. But 2024 is coming to an end. There were so many highlights of this year. While it may not have qualified as a highlight, did you review your insurance coverages with a professional this year? If not, give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. We will go over your current insurance program for free with no obligation to even receive a quote. And we'll talk some Purdue sports in the process. Reach out today and we'll knock it out before the end of the year, no matter where you are in Indiana. So on the football side of things, obviously Penn State 49, Purdue 10, just a really, really poor showing for Purdue again. Not much to say at this point. Purdue's played 4 top 10 teams, and it's a total of 195-17. 66-7 to Notre Dame, 35-0 to Oregon, 45-0 to Ohio State, 49-10 to Penn State. Purdue is now 0-7 in Big Ten play with an average margin of defeat of 27 points. That includes a 1-point loss to Illinois. That includes a 6-point loss to Northwestern. Purdue is getting blown out on a weekly basis. The memorable part of this game will be Denylon Morissette catching the pass out of the end zone, which is so fitting for what this season has been for Purdue. When it looks like something semi-positive might happen, it doesn't. Purdue misses another field goal with a different field goal kicker. It was from 48, a little longer. You can live with that. But it doesn't change the fact here that this is just been a catastrophe of a season for Purdue. And, you wrapped up a season at home where you had wonderful fan attendance, another strong crowd, all things considered, on Saturday. It cleared out early. I can't blame anyone. But, the hits just keep on coming. Purdue hasn't been competitive in most of its games this year. And as we enter the final two games where, Purdue's a 14-point underdog, it looks like, at Michigan State. Purdue's probably going to be in the 20s at Indiana. You're staring at 1-11, and Purdue has decisions to make. I had a Q&A question here that will be a long-form answer to kind of wrap this episode up because, frankly, I don't have that much to say about Penn State. I mean, I can talk about Tyler Warren being the best player on the field. He was awesome. Can talk about a lot of stuff, but there's just not that much to say, really. Q&A, though, came in about the big picture here and about Purdue in the future. If you're the president of Purdue, Babinski and Grimes come to you and say, Walters needs more time, we want to retain him another year, what is your move considering the financials, retirement plans, fan apathy, performance, etc.? First off, this is an athletic director thing. This is why you have an athletic director. I don't think the president of the school generally gets super involved in these things. Presidents of schools are generally very academically minded. Certainly the case at Purdue with Mung Chang. Sometimes the board of trustees will have folks very involved in sports. That was always kind of considered to be the case with Mike Berghoff, who's retiring at the end of the year. This is the athletic director's decision. Obviously, as the question alluded to, Mike Babinski nearing retirement factors in here because while, sure, there's nothing on the surface level wrong with him making a move before he gets out, coaches generally want to know who they're going to work for, and you wouldn't have that answer if Mike Babinski is planning on getting out in the next couple of years, and you don't know who the successor will be. I do wonder, and I had this thought on my drive home last night from the game. I wonder if this has just all happened so fast that Purdue wasn't really prepared for it. Obviously, when you're in these roles, you have to always imagine that your current situation doesn't work out. You always have to have an idea that, okay, if this fails, what's next? You have to have contingency plans, but I don't know that contingency plans included going 1-11 this year and, frankly, being historically bad to where you might have to make a move now. That's a different story. Maybe the plan all along was that, Mike Babinski works next year, gets through year 3, and then if things look poor, you have a new athletic director coming in year 4. If you pull the plug, you pull the plug. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that was, more of what the worst case scenario plans were. But right now, this isn't working. And I know the thoughts out there about Purdue replacing coordinators, making Ryan Walters completely hands-off, CEO type, new assistants, new position coaches. I think it's a big ask. I think it's a really big ask. We haven't seen Ryan Walters step away from any of this. He stepped away from the defense to completely take over the offensive side of the ball. Is he comfortable just being completely hands-off and having both sides of the ball controlled by someone else? Is he comfortable with Purdue running something other than his style of defense? I don't know. Can you get good enough coordinators to do this? It's no secret that if Ryan Walters comes back, he would be on a scorching hot seat coming into next year. I mean, you can look at the tenor on social media, on message boards. Purdue's fan base wants no part of this. There are very, very few folks who are advocating for more time here, and that's something Purdue has to deal with. While I don't think you always want your fans making the decisions here, at some point their input does matter. And right now, this is a catastrophe. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Can you get coordinators who want to dive onto this ship? Are you having to give them multiple years? Are you having to overpay them? It's not easy hiring those assistants. sure, the financials are valid. You have revenue sharing coming next year, but that's going to be a part of it no matter what. Whether you fire him now, fire him after a year, sure, you want it to work out, but what is the precedent for doing this and it working out? I mean, I can't really think of many situations where you fire the coach or you fire everyone, bring in an entirely new staff, and it all works out. I don't know. My big thought here is that Purdue was really caught off guard by how bad this has gotten so quickly, which I think everyone is. There were reasons to be a little bit skeptical about this hire, and those were all valid at the time. A lot of them have proven true, but regardless, I don't know that many folks saw this coming, it being this bad, this quickly. We'll see. We'll see what Purdue does here. It has a gigantic decision to make because you're bordering on apathy. That's a really dangerous spot to be. Purdue's had great support from the fan base recently, but I do wonder, even if all these changes are made, how's Purdue going to do in the portal? Does it have money to keep its best players? Does it have money to go attract quality players? Because if you lose your best players again, the way you did last year, and you get a portal group that's a mixed bag at best, you're going to do the same thing, and you already know what's going to happen next year. That's no place to be. We'll see what happens. Lots of questions remain here, but yeah, I mean, this is a really tough spot for Mike Babinski, but Purdue has 2 weeks here. It's November 17th. Purdue will play the bucket game on November 30th, and on December 1st, it will be the end of the season, and Purdue's going to have a decision to make that Sunday and figure it out. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for spending your time with me. I will be back next week to talk about Purdue Marquette. We'll look ahead a little bit to Friday night, Purdue Michigan State. We will take a look at all of that. Send over your questions on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Email them to me, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter. Come join the conversation. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I will talk to you guys Wednesday night. Be in your feed Thursday morning. Until then, enjoy the game. Take care.